Mm. All right. So that's what we need to know about that one. Moving on. Now, something interesting happened over the weekend with the TERFs of all people. Now, as you know, I have recently started, not, I wouldn't say necessarily with friends, but like I've started being friendly with the TERFs. And I enjoy the TERFs. I really do. I like them. I don't know. I don't agree with everything they say, but I do enjoy that they are ballsy, badass women who are standing up for what they believe in. And I have to have appreciation for that. But something interesting happened over the weekend. The TERFs started attacking Chris Rufo. They started going after him. Here's Katie Herzog basically retweeting Chris Rufo saying, Chris Rufo joins the TERF wars 5 minutes ago and announces women have been doing it wrong. That is not what Chris Rufo said. That is not what Chris Rufo said at all. What they're pissed off about is that Chris Rufo started covering the gender stuff and then got put on Tucker Carlson covering the gender stuff. And the TERFs didn't feel like they were getting enough credit for the work they'd done. Now, I won't dismiss the work they've done on this. This is obviously an issue they've been fighting back on for a really long period of time. However, here's what I'm going to say, and then we're going to read the story and we're going to talk about what happened. You guys can't shit on your natural allies like this. Like, so what? Chris Rufo is a guy. I understand. I understand that he has been covering other topics that are not your favorite gender topics up until this point. However, Chris Rufo is the most effective activist that exists in this game. And shitting on him because he's a man and because he just started covering these topics and because he got to go on Tucker Carlson and you didn't is not helpful. It is not helpful. Chris Rufo is so effective because of how disciplined he is. He works incredibly hard. And this is why, it's not because he's a man, this is why he has made as much progress as he has made. And anytime Chris Rufo is able to shed light on something related to this woke area, that is a good thing. That is a positive thing. Chris Rufo knows how to get laws passed, dude. And I'm sorry, but he really has made more overall progress. I'm not saying in specific to the gender ideology stuff, but in terms of overall beating back the woke menace in schools, Chris Rufo has made more progress in the last year and a half than pretty much anyone else on the planet. And so what if he went on Tucker Carlson and didn't give you credit? So effing what? Listen, dude, I'll tell this freaking story and I don't care. I am literally the person that launched Chris Rufo into this space. When he followed up on a news story I broke that Seattle, Washington was doing segregated employee training. I broke that news story. That news story got covered on Ben Shapiro and a couple other places. Chris Rufo was then he wasn't unknown. He was a journalist in Seattle that was covering other issues. And he was the only journalist to actually take the news story that I broke and follow up on it and do FOIA requests and get more information. And that was literally the moment that Chris Rufo got launched into this space. And I have never once demanded credit for that from him or for anything else. You want to know why? Because who the F cares? Chris Rufo has taken on the thankless task of being the face of this for everyone else. He has made more progress than anyone else. He has helped get laws passed. He has helped write bills at the state level and the federal level. He has been absolutely critical in this fight. And so when other people turn up and start shitting on him for the work he's doing and demanding that they get the credit, like, boo fucking who? You should be grateful that he's covered your topic. You should be grateful that he's shining more light on it. You should be grateful that he's putting the energy in when he didn't have to. He didn't have to. So I will always have that guy's back because I understand, probably not even fully to be honest, but I understand the bullet that he has taken for all of us. He is their number one target. And there aren't many other people who would have ever put themselves in that position at all. So let's read about why the feminists are upset. This is on Unheard. Will feminists join Christopher Rufo in the gender wars? The activist highlighted crucial fissures in a coalition opposed to the trans ideology. Having your female idea repeated to much greater effect by a male colleague in meetings is, for office working women, such a familiar occurrence that it's become a wary stereotype. So the sight of a man, campaigner CHRIS Rufo, denouncing gender ideology to another man on the Tucker Carlson show ruffled many gender critical feminist feathers, not least when Carlson blamed feminists for pushing this ideology, asked, "Where are the men to stop this?" Hang on. I'm going to remember back to a couple weeks ago when I had my first of what I genuinely hope will be many Turf Tuesdays. And if you haven't seen the Turf Tuesday talk, go back and watch. It was a great talk. But on that show, Jay Thomas, who is one of the women that's been campaigning against this stuff, she literally said that she wanted men to step up and help. And then a man steps up and helps, and he gets ripped apart by all of the TERFs on the internet for daring to stand up and help. So TERFs, you got to make up your mind, dude. Do you want the men to help you, or don't you want the men to help you? If I were to say, like, well, if I were to weigh in on this, I would say that if you really care about your cause, if you care about the goal, then you should want everyone of every gender, regardless of if they have a penis or not. You should want everyone speaking out against this issue. Chris Rufo has a very large microphone, and he's got a very deep Rolodex of contacts. He could be an absolute warrior in this fight for you, but you have to allow him to be. He can't help that he was born a man, dude. He can't help it. Let him help you in the ways that he is able to offer that help if you care more about the goal than you do about getting credit for something. The response to this intervention was highlighted crucial fissures in the potential coalition opposed to gender ideology, willingness to work across the political aisle, and willingness to operate outside classical liberal political conventions. Campaigner Kara rebuked Ruffo, pointing out that women had been at this for years. And let me just show you what she said. Kara, this is in response to a thread to the post that Chris Rufo made of himself on Tucker. Kara responded, "Chris, you've been getting quite a bit of flack on here for jumping into this space without realizing that women have been at this for years. Here's my book, in case you want to check it out and retweet. That would actually be very helpful." And then Chris has a little back and forth with her, and at some point she also tweeted, "And here's my podcast too." Dude. Again, this is just blatant self-promotion bullshit. I'm sorry. This is blatant fucking self-promotion, and there's nothing wrong with self-promotion, except when you're demanding someone retweet your book as penance for daring to cover your topic area. Like, it's just bad form, man. It looks selfish and self-promotional at best. And Chris Rufo responded. He said, "I actually haven't been getting flack, and I certainly don't believe I need permission from feminists to report on gender. My reporting follows my curiosity and nothing else. And frankly, those of you who have been at this for years have done nothing but lose ground." And yeah, I agree with him. I agree with him, dude. I'm sorry. Like, and I don't want to shit on the TERFs, because I like the TERFs. I like the attitude of the TERFs. I think the TERFs can make a lot of progress, but we also need to face facts here that there hasn't been a lot of progress made. And the reason there hasn't been a lot of progress made is because people are going about this in the incorrect way. And maybe the TERFs could learn a thing or two from Chris. If they asked him, I bet he would be more than willing to help you. He's always, at least for me, been incredibly helpful and incredibly responsive. He testified in New Hampshire for the anti-CRT bill. I know if I needed him for something else, I could probably reach out pretty easily, and I bet he'd do it. Because this is his mission. This is what he wants to do. And if he can help you guys be more effective, you should absolutely take advantage of that. So Ruffo response, "Frankly, those of you who have been at this for years have done nothing but lose ground. Cue outrage." Let's leave aside the fact that in the UK, at least, opposition to trans activism has been far from hopeless. But being told by men that we're doing it wrong hits a sore point for the many long-standing opponents of trans activism whose views are inflected by radical feminism. Dude, if you guys were being successful, you would have passed laws by now. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. CHRIS Rufo has been active in passing laws at the state level, and he's been instrumental in getting bills introduced at the federal level, although none of them have passed. And least we forget, he is the person that is literally responsible for Donald Trump issuing an executive order banning critical race theory from the federal government and all federal government contractors when he was still president. Sadly, that executive order was rescinded on day one of Joe Biden's presidency, but that was 100% because of CHRIS Rufo. So I'm sorry, gender activists. I'm sorry. I'm going to say something you don't want to hear. If you've been so effective, then where are your laws? If you've been so effective, then why are they grooming children in elementary school? If you've been so effective, why haven't you beaten them back yet? I'm not saying you've made zero progress, man, but I also think you need to be realistic about how much progress you have and haven't made. And it seems to me it's because you might be focused on the incorrect things. Because if you're doing things like tweeting at CHRIS Rufo, Chris, how dare you cover my favorite topics and retweet my book as penance for you daring to cover these topics. If that's where you're focused on, you are doing it wrong. You are doing it wrong. And you need to shift course. And if you are not honest with yourself about this, you are not going to be successful. And I am saying this out of love, man. I want you to be successful. I want you guys to make laws. I want you guys to change public sentiment. I want you guys to institute policies in schools preventing this bullshit. But if you're going after the people who are trying, dude, TERFs, listen. Most of the people that you're going to need to influence are men. Most of the people you need to convince are men. And if you're unwilling to work with men that you are on the same team with, you are going to have a lot of problems convincing men to pass laws and make policies and do everything that is required to actually functionally beat this back. You need them. They need you to tell them what's going on, but you need them to act on what's going on. This is a two-way street. Everyone has to be involved. Everyone has to play nice, or it doesn't work. Very crudely, radical feminists object to trans ideology on the basis that gender is a hierarchy imposed on women as a class by men as a class in order to entrench male domination. As such, treating gender as more salient in political terms than biological sex is just viewed as a trendy new way of entrenching the same hierarchy and oppressing the same biological sex class, women, as ever. From this perspective, the galling sight of males popping up to criticize trans activism and seemingly receive little blowback when women have faced years of job losses, social and professional ostracism, and even death threats for voicing gender-critical views looks like yet another data point for gender is a hierarchy. Or maybe he benefited from the work that you've already done. You could have painted that. You literally could have painted that the fact that CHRIS Rufo can go on Tucker Carlson and talk about these issues and not get the same blowback, because it's not like men have never talked about this before. I'm sorry. It's not like this is the first time a man has talked about this. You might actually, if the TERFs were smart, what they would say is, you know what? The fact that this can now be talked about in the open and him not receiving that blowback, that's as a result of our hard work. That's what they should do. If they really want to make the point that they've made all this progress, that's how they should play this. Not, CHRIS Rufo, you evil man, how dare you? This is by no means the only possible framework for objecting to trans activism, though. Conservatives and Catholics, among others, also object, but on different grounds. Radical feminists are vocal, but relatively few in number. What are the prospects, then, of building coalitions across such disparate ideologies? This thorny question has powered much of the internal politics within gender critical activism in recent years. Blah, blah, blah. Let me just get this super chat from Incognito real quick. Just gotta wait for it to pop up. There it is. Incognito says, TERFs, what's important? Clout or achieving goals? The goal should always come first. Who gets credit is something that can be dished out later. But I'll tell you what, man, as someone who has gotten credit for a lot of things, let me tell you that the credit doesn't actually get you very far. But you know what keeps you going is progress towards the fucking goal. That's all that matters, is progress towards the goal. If you are not making progress towards the goal, you are going backwards from the goal. So you have to make sure you're being mindful of always moving towards the goal. And if you don't get the credit you think you deserve, so fucking what? Welcome to the club. It literally happens to everyone. Who really cares? Are you in it for the clout or are you in it for the goal? That's what you have to ask yourself. And if it's the clout that's more important to you, at least be honest about it, man. If all you want is to sell books and go on the shows and get the credit, at least be honest with yourself about it. Don't pretend that you're doing something you're not. Meanwhile, some more liberal objectors to trans ideology object to Rufo's mobilization of institutional power to fight back. You can't use the power of the state to win culture war battles. That is just wrong, Katie. Katie, that is wrong. You can use the power of the state to win culture battles because the state can be used to restrict the power of the state. That is precisely the point. Though in Texas and Florida, it looks a great deal as though conservatives are doing precisely that, to some considerable effect. Meanwhile, much of the effective gender criticism activism in the UK has focused on pushing back against precisely this capture of state power by trans activists. Ruffo is explicit about sharing almost none of the Rad Fem's objectives and seeing their framework as more part of the problem than not. I don't believe the trans-exclusive radical feminist can solve the problem of trans-inclusive radical feminism, he said. While his desired outcome is not a TERF-approved gender curriculum in schools, I agree. I do not think the desired outcome we're shooting for is a TERF-approved gender curriculum. I don't think there should be any gender curriculum. I happen to be of the absurd opinion that schools should be about learning how to read and write and do math. That's pretty much it. Maybe you teach them some sciencey things. Maybe you teach them some history things. But I don't need no gender curriculum in school, one way or the other. I don't really care. Just because I don't want far left ideology in schools does not mean I want far right ideology in schools or any ideology in schools for that matter. I just want kids learning how to read. Is that too much to ask? It really shouldn't be too much to ask. So that's what's going on with the infighting of 2022. And this is why we can't have anything nice, guys. There is so much effing infighting in the anti-woke space. This is why I've just decided to rid myself of it entirely. This is why I don't involve myself with other people. This is why I focus on what I'm doing and trying to do stuff with the Unwoke army and get that together and writing my book. And then if people want to come on my team and play, you are welcome to come on my team and play. But dude, the amount of bullshit infighting, I have never seen anything like this in my life. And it is entirely because everyone is interested in credit and clout over actually getting things done.